Hello and welcome back into this week's episode of the Everyday Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Hagley, and today we're breaking down something that I think a lot of us are chasing, and that is the habits that truly drive long-term performance and long-term fitness. Today's episode, we're not going to talk about quick fixes or overnight transformations, but we're going to talk about real, sustainable routines, lifestyle habits that help you as an everyday athlete stay strong and healthy and performing at your best over the long term. So in this episode, we're going to walk through these 5 key habits that I've found make the biggest difference for everyday life. Now, when we talk about habits and framing this episode in the typical mindset of get up and make your bed, drink a gallon of water a day, get up and focus on things that are more discipline over motivation, right? We're very familiar that motivation doesn't drive long-term sustainable progress. Discipline, to some extent, does, but not to the same extent as just having habits and knowing in your mind what works, what doesn't, what works for you, and what's going to drive you to continue this action, continue this process, and continue to make progress over the long haul. The habits that I'm talking about today are not those typical minutia habits. These are things that survive through stress. They survive through chaos, bad sleep, busy weeks, things that pop up here and there. These are habits that work whenever life isn't perfect, because for most of us out there, life isn't perfect day in and day out. But these are the habits that work when life isn't perfect. Now, with that in mind, there's a few here that didn't make the cut. Things like meal prepping. Great habit to have, but you travel and you're not home on a Sunday afternoon and you can't meal prep. Does that really dislodge your entire week? Right? Macro tracking, perfect sleep routines and sleep habits, and same can be said for morning routines. And then you can go down the list of supplementation and cold plunging or sauna or different recovery gadgets. Right? These are all great. Meal prepping is a fantastic habit to have. It's a fantastic thing that within your life, if you can make that a part of your weekly routine, a part of your life, you're going to see sustainable progress. Same thing with macro tracking. Having morning and night routines. I have a morning routine. I have a night routine. Things that I stick to or things that I want to check off every time that I wake up, every time that I go to bed. But if I miss one night, does that then cause me to miss the next night and then to miss the next night? Because we're starting to derail these things, right? If life gets chaotic, what's the first thing to go? It's probably going to be your morning routine. If you've got to get up at 4 a.m. and your morning routine takes 2 hours to do, now we've set limits on the practicality of that habit. So those, again, are great lifestyle habits. They matter. They are important, but they're highly impacted by uncontrollables. These are good lifestyle habits. They matter in the big picture for long-term sustainable progress, but they are highly impacted by the uncontrollables. Stress and chaos can reduce your ability to adhere to these. I would treat them more as a supporting behavior, not a paradigm shift, not something that you need to be focusing on day in, day out that's going to potentially drive long-term success. Now, these habits don't change how you think about training. They change how cleanly you can execute whenever life is calm. So instead, today I want to talk about 5 habits that actually change how successful folks, how the everyday athletes that want to be successful can stay fit and healthy in the long term. As everyday athletes, right? As dads, as husbands, as professionals, we have a lot of things coming our way. And so these habits allow you to take ownership over your life. Now let's dive into habit number 1. The core idea around this is calendar ownership. Training, your schedule is decided before the day even starts. Having training on your calendar, having a program with workout and sets and reps, everything laid out for you, removes daily negotiation. It's structure. You know that you're going to hit your session. You may hit your session first thing in the morning. You may hit it after work. You may hit it after you put your kids down to sleep while the sports game's on. But you're going to train that day. This is where structure starts to beat your motivation. You don't feel like it? Doesn't matter. You've got training on the calendar. You're going to go train. It may be the worst training session of the year, but you're going to go out and do it. This allows you to shift days, okay, where you know you're going to train 5 days a week, and it's time to hit that 5th session. You may not be able to hit it today. Can you push it to tomorrow? Right? Can we move things around? Because whenever things come up in our daily life, right, we've got to move things around. We've got to plug and play in different areas. We can do that for a week. We can maybe do that for 2 or 3 weeks, but shifting entire months, skipping training over the long term, we can't do that, right? This is where this isn't just rigidity, but it's about ownership of your calendar and of your time. The habit with this isn't never missing, but it's knowing that training belongs in your life, knowing that you're going to do something one way or another. Now, habit number 2 is the sessions themselves. Okay. Focusing on short and efficient sessions still counts. I love training. I could spend hours in the gym, but my life doesn't allow me to do that. And this is a habit that I think really builds adherence to training, is knowing that you can go in with time constraints and still get in a good workout. Training doesn't need to be 45 minutes or 60 minutes or 2 hours to be effective. The reality is that efficiency can beat duration. What can you do in the time that you have? Hey, how are you going to spend 30 minutes? Are you going to spend it on your phone? Are you going to spend it watching TV? Are you going to spend it reading a book? Or can you spend that 30 minutes going and catching a quick workout and doing with what you have? All right, 20 to 30 minute sessions is plenty. And we can be even more efficient within the session. Stick to your rest periods. If not, maybe shave off a few seconds of your rest. All right, hit your warm up, hit your sets, push yourself. Doesn't need to be an easy workout. You can still get an effective workout, but get in and get out. Do the work and get out. I would argue that most sessions should be this way. Not 20 minutes, but they should be get in, do the work that you need to, and get out. You don't need to spend just hours in the gym training. And then also factor in the equipment. Equipment limitations are not barriers. Do with what you have. If you have minimal equipment, you can still get in a good workout. You can do body weight push-ups and air squats. You can do burpees. Right? We can load up phone books in a backpack and go for a 30-minute ruck walk. I don't know if people still use phone books, but fine with what you have, right? We can still get in a good workout even when the conditions aren't right. And that's the key with this. You may not have enough time. You may not have the perfect equipment, but you can still get in a killer workout with the resources that you have available to yourself. The people who stay in fitness the longest do what they can when they can. They don't need $50,000 home gyms. They're nice. They make training freaking awesome, but it's not a requirement to still see progress and to still maintain your fitness level. Okay, once jobs, once responsibilities, once family obligations start to come up, right? How we train has to change. And training should be a part of your life, not the center of it. Now, habit number 3 is focusing on submaximal and modulated training. Your training should challenge you without creating a sense of dread. I think this is very important for a lot of people, especially people who may not train like this is part of their identity, right? Who may be on the fence about exercising, or who may just be starting out or not sure where they need to go to still get in shape. It should not create a sense of dread. If you dread the workout before leaving the house, then your adherence is going to drop. That's very important. Not every session needs to feel like a fight. Being able to modulate the intensity of your training keeps that more emotionally approachable. There's days that you are totally on with motivation. You are dying to go to the gym, and you can go in there and hit a hard workout. There's other days when you have a hard workout scheduled and you're not really feeling up to it, and you're like, man, I just don't want to go in today, right? Those are the days that taking an easier approach, still getting movement, still getting a little bit of activity is going to be beneficial in the long term. Now, this doesn't mean that all of your training has to be easy, but you need to be training intelligently. If your training is feeling like punishment all the time, then you're going to eventually stop showing up. This is true as a trainee and as a trainer, someone writing programs for others. Habit number 4 is maintaining conditioning within the program itself year-round. Your engine, your fitness from an aerobic standpoint matters so much for your health, your performance, and your life. Conditioning improves way more than just fitness alone. Okay? It's going to improve your mood, right? There's different things within the brain that are activated with going through aerobic training or even glycolytic high intensity training. Okay? It improves long-term your energy levels and your resilience from fighting off illnesses and just staying healthy in the long term. It also improves your lifting and improves the things that you're doing inside the gym because you can recover at a much better clip than you could if you neglected conditioning. And ultimately, your life, you're just going to feel better. So things to focus through are hitting at least some form of conditioning and maintaining that within your program. It can be zone 2 low intensity work. I love this, right? Whenever I started implementing more conditioning into my programming, I was dreading, right? Going back to habit number 2, I was dreading a hard session because I thought that all my sessions had to just be burying me in the ground. But I started with zone 2. It was easy. I could keep my heart rate low. I could put on a TV show on the bike and I could just spin for 45 minutes. It felt like the time flew by, right? Or we can use high intensity work. Maybe you enjoy that. Maybe you enjoy the sweat and the heavy breathing and pushing yourself, right? Using mixed modal work, using kettlebells, using ski ergs, bike ergs. Okay, it doesn't matter how you do it. I'm not going to be dogmatic about the approach here. But just make sure that it exists within your training, within your programming itself. Right? As an everyday athlete, as a dad, as a husband, you shouldn't be getting winded just doing the things that you love to do. Right? Playing with your kids, being able to work out in the yard. Okay, so keep conditioning in there. Now, habit number 5 is training in a way that lets you train again tomorrow. And this is the big one. This is where we round it out. Longevity in training drives longevity in life. I love training 7 days a week. I've been training 7 days a week for the last 6 years. Now, that doesn't mean 365 days a year. There's definitely days that I miss, but I'm training and doing activity every single day. The key is that nothing in my programming leaves me wrecked. All right, I can keep steady and sustainable progress because my training is sustainable. There's days that I push hard, but those are followed up with days that I don't push quite as hard. I keep deloads within my programming. I use residuals to allow me to maintain habits while focusing on others. There's days when I'm sore, but there's more days than not that I'm not sore from my training. I try to avoid things that are going to make me injured. Okay, examples here are overhead pressing, high rep box jumps, high rep burpees. Unless I'm training for high rocks, I'm not doing burpees the same way that I would be, right? Because those are things that just have more risk with less reward. I try to do workouts that don't force me to have unnecessary layoffs from my training. If something is beat up, if a shoulder's nagging a little bit, then there's ways that I'll work around it. But I'm going to try and make sure that the way that I train allows me to train every single day. Because I think that frequency and doing these tasks daily or more frequently than not over the long term is going to beat annihilation. I'm not doing leg workouts that make it so that I can't walk upstairs. I'm not doing chest workouts that I used to do this whenever I was bodybuilding. I don't do chest workouts that don't allow me to put my hands up on the steering wheel to drive home. Okay, if today's workout is costing you tomorrow, then it wasn't a good trade-off. That's the key take home there. Now, again, let's revisit the habits that didn't make the cut. These are great habits to have, but these are not the top 5 that are going to drive long-term progress. Right? We need to build a foundation using these 5 habits and then start to layer on the lifestyle habits, the more detailed and specific habits onto the top of that pyramid. Successful everyday athletes aren't perfect, but they're durable because the habits that they have allow them to train and sustain their fitness over the long term. Right? This comes back to the identity of being the everyday athlete, being a fit dad, being a healthy husband that looks good for their wife, right? Being confident in how they look and being able to be capable and resilient and present. If this resonates with you, then you're training the right way. So thanks for listening to the Everyday Strength Podcast. If today's episode helped you learn something, do me a favor and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. This helps the show grow and it ensures that you never miss an episode. If you're on YouTube, drop a comment. I read all of them. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, then a quick 5-star review goes a long way in pushing this information to more people. If you want to go deeper, then join the Performance Edge Network. It's free to join and it gets you access to my weekly newsletter, which is full of training breakdowns, physiology deep dives, and tools that you can apply immediately to become a stronger, fitter, higher performing everyday athlete. And if you're ready for structured programming, then I've got options for whatever path you're on. The Peak Performance Training Program is my flagship strength and conditioning program. And I also offer Peak 3X, which is a 3-day per week version for busier athletes, along with other programs designed for hybrid competitors, runners, and anyone who wants to train like an athlete year round. You can find all those and more at HagleyStrength.com. I appreciate you being here. Keep training hard, and I'll see you in the next episode.